Good morning. That's not working. Can you see my screen okay, Marissa?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm giving it a few
Um,
minutes to let everybody log on. What's up?
I was just gonna say I'm gonna be on mute most of the morning because I've got all the kids at home
That's okay.
and we've got like I'll be in the car with my daughter on the way to the grocery store kind of thing. I'm
Okay.
like,
It's recording too,
I
so
can go with you to the grocery store, but I'm gonna sit in the car.
yeah, yeah, no, that's fine. It's recording too, so I'll send out the recording when afterwards, like I normally do.
Okay,
Um, and it will be a lot of me talking today, I'm sure. So it's okay.
cool. Thank you.
Good morning, good
Thank
morning,
you.
good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Giving it a few minutes. I've heard from a few people they're having internet issues, so I'm gonna try to let them get in before I start repeating myself. So expensive.
How was everyone's weekend so far? How was everyone's Halloween weekend?
I'll let other people answer. Mine was exhausting with 3 kids.
No, no, that I could imagine. I only could imagine. I found out spiked Arizonas are actually pretty decent.
Oh yeah.
Way better than Mike Hard Lemonade or way better than Apple Cider Orchard, whatever.
That's funny.
So if you could find yourself a spiked Arizona, go grab it immediately. No joke. It has the same taste as the 99 cents. It has the same taste as the 99 cents Arizonas. Just a
Hmm.
little bit of kick in it. So like it makes it even perfect in my eyes. I grew up on
Yeah.
Arizonas.
They've kept it at 99 cents for forever too. That's what I like about them.
I remember I was watching a video about that actually, where the CEO or the CFO was asked a question why they don't raise the prices and everything like that. And they were saying, we don't spend no money on marketing. Like we barely spend any money on marketing.
Right.
Our brand is the 99 cents. So he was like, as long as we're 99 cents, everyone's going to be picking up Arizona's because that's our brand.
Yeah. That's funny. All right. I'll give it one more minute and then we'll jump on here, get squared away. Friendly reminder for those of you that are listening, we do not have any group coaching tomorrow. The office is closed, so we won't be doing anything there. Um, and we'll pick back up next week. Group coaching is also going to turn into a little bit more of a workshop. The command one this past week went really well. And next week, we are going to practice writing contracts and talk a little bit about buyer presentations. So if you can be here next week, that will be super impactful. I'm also going to send out a Google Doc at some point this week that's going to have links to a bunch of different MLS trainings. One of those being a transaction desk / Authentisign one, which is where we go to write our contracts and send it for e-signature. Shout out Lynn Ann. She's not on the call yet. Hopefully she's coming. But if she doesn't, it's okay. She completed her MLS training last week and sent me the little certificate. Those of you that have done it, that's okay. If you didn't send it to me, I don't necessarily need it. She just did. Also, shout out Mike Ramler, got one under contract last week. Krista had her first listing appointment last week, and sounds like it went well. And they're working on some things to get signed. And Dennis Jones is also working on getting ratified. Oh, there's Lynn Ann. I'm gonna do it again. So we had a good week as a productivity coaching group. Lynn Ann, good morning. I just gave you a shout out for completing your MLS training. So awesome job on that. Hopefully she can hear me. It doesn't show her having a microphone. All right, let's get started. So today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is creating inventory. Those of you that have been around me for a while, I often call this my secret sauce. This is what I consider myself an expert in, is creating inventory from off-market listings or for off-market listings or for based on buyer needs. So as we always do, why is this not working? Let's do it. As we always do, we start with a bold law. Again, still not working. Hold on. All right. Well, the bold law is there is no try. I don't know where it went. Here, we'll fix it in real time. Oh, no, we won't. Okay, it went away. All right, there is no try. That's our bold law. Way to start a Monday off strong with technical issues. So today, again, we're talking about creating inventory. So I'm trying to move my screen to the side. There we go. I'll just put this down. There we go. So obviously, we're still in a seller's market. Inventory still remains low, despite what we're hearing in the news or despite what you may see as far as price reductions and stuff like that are concerned. The number one way to fix a bad lead is more leads. I noticed a typo. So, agenda for today, we're going to talk about what to do with your buyer needs and what they should look like. A little bit about door knocking. Obviously, we've talked about that before. I'm going to talk about a strategy that you can do to get more listings using specifically door knocking, not necessarily about open houses like we did previously. We're going to talk about golden letters, my specific matchmaker system, and then a couple scripts. All right, so buyer needs and what you can do with them. Your buyer needs should be as specific as possible. There's no such thing as too much detail when it comes to your buyer needs. So I want you to detail them. If you don't have a pipeline already, you need one, whether you're an Excel user like myself, or you want to use opportunities in Command, or you just want to have a piece of paper written down on your desk. That is okay as too, although I would recommend using something tech-based because you can access it from anywhere. However, the more detail you have, the better. So if I have a buyer, John Smith, looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath rancher, that can be pretty much anywhere. If I know he needs a 3-bed, 2-bath rancher around 1,500 square feet, he prefers Hanover County, would like to stay within Ashland. A detached garage is a plus. A fenced backyard is a good thing. You see where I'm going with this. The more must-haves and the more detail, the better. Now, when we go to make posts about this or when we go to share these buyer needs, we want to make it personal. Now, this does not mean saying Mike Rambler at 123 Main Street is looking for blah, 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 blah. This just means we want to make sure that we show that it's real. So the more detail is one of the ways we do that. You can also use their first name if they give you permission for that. Or even I like saying, hey, I got a young family with 2 kids. They're looking to upgrade space because they've outgrown their 3-bedroom house. Now we're looking for 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths or more. They like 2,000 plus square feet. They want to stay within the same school district. That is Jacobs Road Elementary, blah, 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 blah. Now, with every single buyer need you have, there are a couple steps you should be taking. And the more you have of them, we'll start qualifying them. That's a different training. We'll talk about that at another time. However, I'm usually sharing my A and my B buyer needs, meaning they're looking to move within 60 days or less. And A is 30 days or less. Realistically, it's probably 45 days or less because of the low inventory. And then our B leads are 60 to 90 days, somewhere in that general area. Now, when we're sharing it, I want you to post them all in our Facebook group, our closed KW Market Center Facebook group, as well as the agent portal. If you have not accessed the agent portal yet, please do so. That is ap.kwmetrocenter.com. There's a couple different things in there that can be of use for you. My favorite thing is one of the things we're talking about today, which is where you can share your buyer needs. You can also share off-market listings. So you'll see that I have 2 listings in there. They're not on the market yet.
I
Go ahead.
apologize for cutting you off. What was that thing you said again? What was that? A website?
Yeah, the agent portal. It's ap.kwmetrocenter.com. I will put it in the chat for those of you that want to reflect on it later. Well, maybe I will. Where's my screen? More chat.
Is this what
Chat.
Kate was talking about like a couple weeks ago?
Yes, it's been talked
As in,
about
like-
in multiple team meetings.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I understand that, but I'm talking about Kate really brought it to my attention, like when she made everyone sit in front of everyone and say, what do you guys need as a client? So that really was stuck with me because, yeah.
Yeah. So what the market or Metro Center leadership is really trying to do or working on doing is kind of a group cohesiveness. So we're sharing with everyone similar resources, and that's what the AP or the agent portal does. I'll go ahead and show it to you guys what it looks like while we're here. So when you log in, this is your kind of home base. You can view listings over here, and this is what I'm talking about today. You can add buyer needs. You can also see what other people have buyer-wise looking. You can add property. You can look at listings. The listing and buyer presentation are in here. Social media templates, logos. There's training videos on here, including command training videos, tons of agent resources, so on and so forth. You can see our training calendars, special events, sign ordering if you want to order directly from the place that they do signs from, any office documents if you need a referral form, if you need a disclosure, which you should already have, and then vendors. Now, if I were you, I would pull this up on your browser that you use and then do this and favorite it. If you have Google Chrome, that's what it looks like. Click the little star and then save it. So now you can access it at any time. So with any of these buyer needs, we want to be posting who we have looking and what they're looking for. Now we'll talk about scripts here in a second, but social media blast is referring to that. Once I have a signed buyer agreement, preferably, or I'm pretty darn confident they're going to be working with me, I'm going to start doing social media blasts, which I'll give you again the script here in a second. However, I want you to get comfortable sharing on your social media that you have a buyer and here's what they're looking for. Now, preferably you would add some sort of catchy picture or a GIF, GIF, to catch attention on that too. Even if it's the same picture every time that's related to buyer needs, that's okay. You want to be catching people's attention. It does two things. A, it brings attention to them, what you have folks looking for. And B, which I think is almost more important, you're doing what I call show your work, which is showing that you actually have clients and that you're helping them find property. The real cool thing about this is most agents are not doing these steps. So if you go on an interview for a client, you can realistically say that you give more effort to finding inventory or finding property than just about anybody else. You're not going to be just putting searches in the MLS and sending them properties. Yes, we do that. We also do all of these extra steps in an attempt to find inventory for them, especially in a market like today's where the inventory remains low. Any questions on that stuff? All right. Again, we'll come back to it with the
I
script
put
here
a
in a minute.
question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'll have that up. Where'd my chat go? Hold on. I'm struggling this morning with the computer. All right.
I can
where's
just
the chat?
ask it if you prefer.
Yeah, just ask it because I don't.
Okay,
Oh, there it is. So our listing's
so
now
I
being
went
added
to
for
that-
Midlothian.
Yeah, I
yeah.
went there over and over, and the only thing I ever saw was Nova, Northern Virginia.
Let's see. Oh, good point. Let's see. Huh. Okay. Yeah. I'll email Rachel and get that squared away because there should be one on here for Chesterfield as well as Henrico or Glen Allen, which I don't even see on there. All right. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Lennon.
You're
Let's check out
welcome.
Let's check out buyer needs. Oops. Yeah, so here's my property so you can see. So I don't know why they're obviously published. I don't know why they're showing up or not showing up, but this is one of the ones that I have listed.
I still want that house.
Go buy it.
Yeah, I wish I could. I wish I could.
It's not technically on the market either, so that's why it's listed in here. Now, again, back for MLS compliance purposes, we can share office exclusive listings within our office. Once they get publicly marketed, they have to go directly in the MLS within a day. Really, it's 3 days if you have a coming soon agreement, but with office exclusive, as soon as it's publicly marketed, in any form, whether it's a social media app, whether it's a sign in the front yard, whether it's a generic mailer, any of that type of stuff that's public, it has to go on the market within a day. So be aware of that. This is a closed site. You have to log into this portal. It's the same login that your command is. But that's why I'm allowed to advertise it on here because it's closed to just our agents.
Are there certain forms that they need to fill out in order to be able to show it office exclusive?
Yes, there is a CVR form. I don't have the number in front of me. It is called owner opt-out / office exclusive. That's exactly what it is. Once you sign it, you have to send it to the MLS, which is you'll send it to compliance@cvrmls.org, and they will accept the fact that it's office exclusive. If you have a listing, this is kind of a sidebar here. It happened a couple times over the weekend too. If you are going on a listing appointment or you have an upcoming listing, let Chris Heron and or myself know as soon as you possibly can. That way we can make sure you have all the ample forms that you may need, and we can kind of talk through that with you, preferably before you go on the appointment. And if we need to, we can kind of regroup things afterwards. We talked about this in bold last week. There's two different ways to look at a listing. There's one where you go on one appointment, you get everything signed and everything squared away there. That's a one-step listing process. Those do not happen that often anymore. Unless you're very, very good and you know that person's going to be working with you, it more often turns into what's called a 2 or a 3-step listing process. Every single one I do is a 2 or 3-step listing process. I go on an appointment and I see the property and I gather info and I find out what the folks are looking to do. Then I schedule another appointment where I'm going to come back and talk numbers, talk paperwork, etc. At that second appointment is when I get an office exclusive signed. Not only does that give me the listing sign, it also gives me an opportunity to start pre-marketing their house, which is the whole point of today's training, is the generating inventory so that we can match it with people, which I'm going to talk about the matchmaker here in a second. So then I can start advertising it within our market center. If you notice under the buyer needs, agent connections within the market center. When you guys see me stand up at the front of the room in a team meeting and say, hey, I have this listing, that is before it has gone to the MLS. I would love to sell those listings to somebody in our office and in our market center before it ever goes to the MLS. Now, we'll talk about why we would do that for our client's sake here in a second. However, it makes the market center more money and it makes my job a lot easier as a listing agent, because instead of texting or trying to call you and get on the phone and figure out what the communication or the must-haves are for your client, I can just walk down the hall or walk upstairs or talk to you on Mondays and Tuesdays when I see you. And so it makes communication a lot better for all parties because we already have an established relationship. Now, with that being said, it doesn't always happen, and that's okay. Thank you, Mike, for putting it in there. It's CVR 145 as the owner listing opt-out form. So once you have that signed, you will send that over to the MLS and you send to it the whole listing agreement. So they just take note of it. Now you can very easily have an owner opt-out listing with the listing form. And then when you move to coming soon, you just sign a coming soon addendum and then you put it in MLS. The one that I have in Glen Allen that some of you saw a picture of yesterday, that's exactly what we did. We had an owner opt-out form. We were basically trying to figure out where she was going next. Once we got a contingent offer accepted, we moved it into coming soon and it'll be on the market this week. So there's kind of steps to follow. And that's where that step 2 to step 3 takes place. Step 2, we meet, we go over all the paperwork, answer any number question they might have. And then step 3 would be staging, photos, etc. All right, any questions on that stuff before I keep going? Okay.
I
Oh,
have a separate
somebody-
question later. I wonder
Okay.
if it's about vendors, but if you have a section about vendors, I'll ask till then.
Do not have any section about vendors today.
Then means I will text you about it then.
Okay, cool.
I
Lynn Ann,
have
what's
one
your
question, Austin.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry, Krista, go ahead, then Lynn Ann.
That's okay. I just wanted to follow the process that you just laid out. I think I want to make sure I have it right. So you had somebody who wanted to move, but didn't want to put their house on the market until they found a house. So
Correct.
it stayed office exclusive until they had a contract pending on a purchase. At that point, it went into coming soon and then is going to be sold.
Correct. And they have to sell to buy. So they are technically what's called first right of refusal or a contingent offer on their new house where they're trying to go. Now, if you get a first right of refusal accepted, there is an addendum for that in the transaction desk. And it explicitly states you will be on the market active as a listing within 7 days of that contract. So we got that back on Thursday while we were in bold. And so she has until Thursday of this week, well, I have, I guess, technically, to be on the market as an active listing. So as soon as that happened on Thursday, we moved it into coming soon and we scheduled the photos for today, this afternoon, and I'll have those back tomorrow and we'll be on the market on Wednesday.
Cool. And then what happens if while it's in office exclusive, you find a buyer?
That's perfect
that
because then we don't have to go to coming soon. Yeah. So you're allowed to show it office exclusive. It just has to be a Keller Williams Metro Center agent. And then if they negotiate and sell it, that's great. That's sold as off market. So there's no like real pending in MLS because the property never goes in MLS. You would just turn in the paperwork like you would any listing to the market center. And then the buyer side would do the same and it would be pending, quote unquote, on our end behind the scenes. So the transaction desk or the, command would have it pending. you would remove it out of the agent portal, and then we would have it pending like on our own pipeline, but it doesn't need to be notified to the MLS.
Got it. So either they would need to find somewhere to move, or you negotiate in some sort of rent back.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get to the win-win section, because that's the whole point. Is in the office exclusive, I'm only going to show it to somebody if A, they're good with the price, and B, they're good with giving us time to find where we're going next. So if we get a buyer and we get an offer on the office exclusive, because you're not active in the MLS, the seller has more power to negotiate. So even if, let's say, we'll use that Chesterfield one I have as an example, it's listed at $399. Even if I get an offer that says $399, if the buyer has to close in 30 days, my seller still doesn't have to accept it because they don't know where they're going next. So it might say close in 30 days, but we need an extended rent back until we figure out where we're going next. So we can negotiate that as part of the offer.
Okay, great. And then the price that you're going to put it, the off market, is going to be the same price you would put it when it went on the market, right?
Yeah, and you can technically change it until it goes coming soon because there's no public advertising. So for example, if I have an office exclusive at $399 and I start sharing it with the office and everybody that I talk to says that's way too high, it needs to be lower, I can go back to the sellers and say, hey, when we hit the market, we got to aim for like $375 or $380 because all the feedback so far has been $399 and is too high, and that's why we haven't had any showings. Same thing with vice versa. If you get $399 and everybody and their brother is telling me in the office that, hey, we got to see that house, it's a steal, it's priced too low, we're going to get a bidding war, blah, 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 we might do the same thing on the back end. Now, very rarely do I raise the list price. If I can go down, I will. If I need to raise it, I will just leave it at where it is because the market will tell me I need to raise it by having more traffic. And that is almost always a better scenario for your seller. Cool. All right, Lynn Ann, what you got? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Krista. You're done.
Just one more follow-up question. Sorry, Lynn.
Yeah.
And then if I'm assuming you don't even want to do office exclusive until it is sell ready. So like if they have any renovations or anything they need to do, that needs to be done first.
Yes and no. It sort of depends on the renovation. So for example, if I have a client or a seller that's replacing some flooring or some carpet, I may still do office exclusive and give the buyer the option where we might say, hey, you could take it at $385 before we do any of the work, if that's something your buyers are willing to do because they might want to do the work themselves, or we're going to look closer to like $399, $400 if we end up doing all the renovations. And then you let the seller and the buyer dictate when they see it. So if a buyer's okay with work and seeing it before it's ready to sell, and the sellers are okay with that too, there's some incentive there. Especially because odds are you can still make the numbers work. And that's why I use those examples. So if it's $385, let's keep using that Chesterfield one. If $400 is the goal sales price, and they have a few things that they want to do to it, if I can sell it for less than $400 and it saves the money that it would cost them to spend in the renovations, it's still the same net to the seller. So if it's going to cost them 10 to 15 grand to update all the things we want to update and you sell it at $385, it's still a win-win. Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Lynn Ann, what you got?
Okay, so first of all, for me, it would be easier in these classes if we could just do what I did, which is raise your hand, and then it wouldn't be quite so confusing. But Krista asked my question because I did not get the progression with that either. But you said something that I just finished the CVR MLS
the training,
on-demand training, and in there it said the buyer's agent would mark something sold as off-market. So if it never goes to MLS, how does the buyer agent do that?
I have no idea what they're talking about.
Okay.
I'll have to go back and check. So there's a couple of different things that they might be referring to there. Excuse me. They a lot of agents use the MLS as a way to track or source their numbers and their number of sales and get awards, etc. And so there is a process where you can go back after the off-market sale is closed and submit it to the MLS so it shows in your results. To be frank with you guys, I've never done that in 14 years or 13 years of selling real estate because I think it's a waste of time. The people that care about how many houses I sell know how many houses I sell, and that's my office. Because if they're going to use command reports, they're not going to use the MLS. And so it's really kind of a moot point. Now that might be what they're referring to by a way for the buyer's agent to go back after the fact and say, hey, I sold this property off market.
But if it's on the
another,
market, how do you sell it off market?
you don't. If it's on the
Okay.
market, it means it's in the MLS. If it's off
Okay.
market, it means it's an office exclusive.
And if it's in the MLS, then,
The listing agent will pin it and put your name in there.
right. And so
Yeah.
you can't sell something off market that's on the market, right? I was
Correct.
confused about that when I saw it.
Yeah, and it might have been something with that training. Now, my goal this week is to send out a Google document to all of the PC folks, and really I should send it to the whole office, where I'm working on it with Chris Heron right now, where it's going to have multiple different links to multiple different trainings related to the MLS. So that intro one is the most important for everybody to do, and in conjunction with the ethics course, if you haven't already done that. But those two are requirements for all PC agents from here on out moving forward. And then
Like
from
that,
there, I'm going to add
when
a
you
couple
do
of
that
others.
training, you get some kind of a $250 waiver.
Correct. So if
That's
you were to
good
make
for
a
you.
mistake, yep. So let's use that office exclusive one as an example. If you did not send it to the compliance at CVR MLS within 3 days of getting it signed, or you publicly market it and then you don't put it in the MLS within a day, there are certain violations you can face where you face an automatic $250 fine. Once you complete that intro to CVR MLS course, you have a voucher to waive that fine. Now you have to complete the training prior to getting the fine. So if you mess up and then try to go back and do the training and say, no, I have this voucher, they're going to go, yep, sorry, no, you don't. You got to pay us $250. I have faced a few of those $250 fines in my career, and they are automatic. And so there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You cannot appeal them. You cannot waive them unless you have a waiver or a voucher. So, and there are a few other trainings I think in there too that offer that. There's another one called Road to Rules course, which is very
Yeah,
similar.
it's kind of tied in.
Yeah.
The introduction one has the road to rules after you go through all of the introduction training, and then it's a 59-minute watch.
Okay, cool. So they added it to it. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
Road to Rules is what technically gives you the voucher. And that's one of the things where they talk
the same
about.
thing in two places.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where they talk about this, how to do an off-market listing. All right, cool. Let's talk door knocking real quick. So I love when people tell me that they want a door knock. And then my follow-up question is always, okay, what's your purpose of door knocking? There are really, in my mind, 3 reasons you could be door knocking. You're farming the neighborhood, you're doing an open house, or you're door knocking on areas that match your buyer needs. Now, in a perfect world, you're door knocking on an area that matches buyer needs for multiple buyers or multiple agents. Obviously, we might only have a few buyers and one of them might match that area. However, if it's an area that I know a couple of our PC agents or several of our Midlothian agents have buyers for, it's an even better return on our investment. Because the point of door knocking is to find a potential seller. Yes, if we have the buyer, we're trying to match make. However, the whole point of this training, we called it create inventory. So if we're knocking on doors because Krista has a buyer looking in a certain area, or Mike has a buyer looking in Brandermill, so I'm going to go knock doors on Brandermill, I'm trying to find the listing so then I can match it with Mike's buyer or whoever the agent may be. We talked about the 40 house minimum rule before. The way this works best is when you give an open house example. So if I'm doing an open house at 123 Main Street, I'm going to knock on 10 doors to the left of the house, 10 doors to the right of the house, and 20 doors across the street at a minimum. You can knock on many more doors if you choose to. That is totally okay. Now, give them something tangible is something you should do regardless of why you're knocking on the doors. And it's something physical to hold on to. That's not your business
I'm
card.
getting a lot of interference.
Is it just Lynn Ann or is everybody getting interference? Jackson just walked in and someone blame him. Is it better now?
No, it
No.
sounds like you sound like you're
I think it's on Lynn Ann's side.
those
I don't have any
voices that
interference
they
on mine.
changed.
Mike, it sounds okay to you?
Yeah, nothing's wrong on my end.
Okay. Well, I'll keep
All right,
talking.
let me go out and come back in then.
Okay. It is recorded too, so I'll send the recording out. So hopefully it's clear on my end and we're not worrying about anything on the backside of it. I'm gonna keep going, and if anybody else starts hearing funny voices or like I'm muffled, just flag me down. So give something tangible with the door knocking. This is something other than your business card. I've talked on kind of sidebars with a few of you guys, whether it's around meetings or at Bold, etc. But it is too easy for somebody to say, thanks for your business card, and then turn around and throw it away or drop it or put it somewhere and they forget where they put it. And so you're giving them something that seems tangible. However, it's too easy for them to forget, or they might even just forget why you knocked on their door in the first place. So like, how did I get this Mike guy's business card? Or what do I have this for? Oh, that's the guy that was knocking on the doors. Okay, cool. Throw it away. So we want to give them something tangible that reminds them of why we were there. Now we're going to talk about golden letters here in a second. When I'm door knocking for a buyer need, that's what I'm giving them, is a copy of a golden letter. The other cool thing about this is you can tape it or drop it on their front door or on their mailbox if you miss them. So you're giving them something, and you might write on there, sorry, I missed you, give me a call, and then you leave it for them. Now, something tangible for an open house or for farming could be very similar. If you're doing an open house, maybe it's a neighbor-only invite to the 1 to 2 hours prior to the open house. So you're giving them something specific that says, hey, here's why I came by. Even if you talk to them, you're giving them something that reminds them of what you talked to them about. And more importantly, it's hopefully got a call to action on it. Now, in this case, I said give them something tangible to hold on to, describing the buyer needs, which we're going to talk about here in a second with golden letters. Now, anything you give them, you want to have a call to action or what's called a MOFR. MOFR stands for make offer for immediate response. Using that open house example, the MOFR is come to the neighbor only exclusive open house. For a call to action buyer need, we're going to talk about it specifically on the golden letters here in a second, but it may say something like, give me a shout. I have a buyer looking to buy in your neighborhood. They're looking for XYZ. Give me a call or give me a text. And so we can, how did I just do that? So we can set it up a time to come preview your house. Questions about door knocking? Cool. All right. Golden letters. This is probably my best return on investment in this whole training. I do a lot of these. They are called golden letters because it's meant to generate inventory. They're also called golden letters because I mail them on gold paper. So the best thing that you can do with this is to make it personal. I'm going to show you an example of my golden letter here in a second. I've shared it with some of you that have already expressed interest in doing golden letters from other trainings. If you want it to be shared with you as well, shoot me a text or an email when we hang up so I know who to forward it to. It is a Google document that I have for my golden letters. So I encourage you guys to copy and paste into your own Google Doc so then you can make it personal and tweak it as see fit. Now, make it personal means one of two things. It means make it personal about you or about what your buyer is looking for. And then it also means include details about the property or about what your buyers are looking for. Now, you'll notice it's a little bit higher of a minimum because we're direct mailing. We're not knocking on doors. So my goal is 50 addresses per buyer need. So if I have somebody that must be in Brandermill, Brandermill's got a lot of different types of homes in it. I'm not going to mail it to all of Brandermill. I'm going to target addresses that fit my buyer need. And I'm going to build a list out until it's 50 or more. Now, sticky note or handwritten note on each. So let's pull up the golden letter. This is what mine looks like. It will have the date that I'm mailing it. It will have my return address, and then it's going to have something specific on here. Now, you can do one of two things. If you're a really patient person, you can add the first name per mailer that you're going to do. So what I would recommend if you're going to do that is you're going to export a list out of the MLS or out of the tax records or wherever you're getting your mailing addresses from, and it's going to have first name, last name, mailing address. So that way you can quickly go down this list and do it. Now, most of the time, I do this. And I write, hey, neighbor. It's got a quick introduction about myself. And then it's got a little bio, and then it says why I'm reaching out to them. Sometimes I'll add a PS, sometimes I won't. And then I have my contact information at the bottom. Now, with this golden letter, when I print them off, I will then take a sticky note, preferably of a bright color, whether it's pink, yellow, or light blue, and I will put a sticky note right here or somewhere across the middle of the meat of it. And on the sticky note, I'm going to write something personal about that particular property. So it might say something like, my clients asked me to reach out to you specifically because they love your lot size, or they didn't think they could find a garage in that neighborhood and yours has one, so please give me a call. Now, obviously, there are some homes that you don't know those extent of details on, so give it something else. Like, I actually have 2 buyers looking in your area, so give me a shout because one of them is bound to work. Or my office also has people looking in Brander Mill, so even if it doesn't work for my folks, maybe it'll work for one of them. Lynn, you got a question?
Yes, so if you're being specific to the neighborhood, right? You just said there's lots of different styles of houses in Brender Mill. So how are you going to drive through Brender Mill and just target the ones you see that look right?
No, you can use the MLS or the tax records, preferably the MLS, where you can pull a search up for Brander Mill and then only highlight or select the houses that fit. Now, the
Does
difference
it
in
have
Brander Mill is,
pictures of the houses?
I mean, some do if they've sold previously.
just
I'm
lost
more
the
referring
sound.
to, okay. Can everybody else hear me okay?
This is not my morning.
Yeah. So I'm more referring to the size and ultimately the price point of the house. So it's going to refer to, like, for example, Brander Mill has small, medium, and large homes. If my folks are looking to stay under 450, I'm not going to mail to the large homes because they're going to sell much higher than 450. It might be 3 or 4 bedrooms max, under 2,200 square feet, and that sort of thing. Now, I don't have to list all of those details in this letter. However, if I say something like they're looking for a house under 450 or they're looking for a house under 2,500 square feet, that could be applicable to put in this letter. And you can move around kind of the language here. This is, again, just a template. It's okay to change this up and make it your own, so to speak. Now, the part that I highlighted here, Worthington Hills, that was the neighborhood that I was mailing these to last. So that's where you would put, they're looking to buy a home in Brander Mill or in Worthington Hills or in Founders Bridge or in wherever you're mailing it to. The second part of this is important, so I would keep that in here where I assured my clients or I assured them that I would reach out to homeowners directly on their behalf. You're making it obvious that you're doing something for one of your clients. You're not just trying to solicit a listing, because that's the number one reason why people won't respond is they're like, oh, Marissa's just trying to get my deal. She's just trying to get listings. And so the more personal you make this, A, you give them an emotional attachment to the buyer that actually exists. And B, you're showing them that, hey, I'm doing this on behalf of my client. I'm not just trying to solicit more business, although that is obviously a added benefit. All right, does golden letters make sense to everyone? All right, so remember, if you text me,
the concept makes sense.
okay, cool. So if you text me, I will send you, or email me, I will send you a copy of this letter or add it. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it with you or add it to you on the Google Docs. Just copy and paste and make your own. Now, I want to be clear. When I send out 50 of these, I don't get 15, 20, 30 responses. I get 1 or none. And so that's where there's a volume or an economy of scale thing that has to be reached here, meaning you have to do a lot of these in order to get a response. However, the return on investment is quite large. If I get 1 seller and they sell their house, that pays for me doing mailers for pretty much the rest of the year for these golden letters. The other way of looking at it is that if I match make or I match it with one of my buyers, now I've made double the commission. Now let's talk about that matchmaking piece. One of the number one questions I get is, why would my seller, and we talked about this a little bit with the office exclusive side of things, but we say, why would my seller take an offer early? Meaning, why wouldn't it go on the market? Lynn, what you got?
Okay, so you have an active buyer. You send out the letter. you get one person who wants to sell, it works. Oh, okay. So I thought you were going to get into one of those dual agency things, but I got mixed in my head, so I get it.
Sometimes it does result in a dual agency, and if it does do that, what I will then do is I will refer it out to somebody else in the office.
Right, but if you're doing the listing and you have the buyer, then that's not a conflict.
Yes, it is dual agent. Yes, it is. If I get the listing and I have the buyer, I'm working both sides. That's dual agent. So I would not do that.
Okay.
So if the
then
seller
how do you
reaches
get
out to me and
So then how do you get 2 commissions?
because I'm going to get a referral fee from whoever I refer it to.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Now,
all right, good.
yeah, and a little bit more personal is I get 2 commissions because it's going to go to an agent on my team. So we're going to get more than a referral fee. So that's kind of another way of working these things is if you're on a team, you can get extra incentive that way by referring it to somebody on your team. Great question, though. And there's nothing against dual agency. It's just, as we've talked about before, especially with Chris Herron and some of the like, is you become a paper pusher. So you cannot negotiate extra on one person's behalf. Now, an off-market listing becomes an opportunity to still do this. Tom Doom actually has done this before too with their team. And what they will do is they will sit down at a round table with both the buyer and the seller and facilitate a conversation between the two of them, where the agent is essentially taking notes on what everybody wants and needs. And then if they agree to it, they can facilitate the paperwork. And if not, nobody is upset or out of the loop as far as how negotiations went, because everybody does it at the same time. So there are ways to do dual agency. We typically don't recommend it because it's a lot easier to do designated. Now, the one person that cannot do dual agency is our principal broker, which is Chris, or our managing broker, because he is the broker of the office. He is required to assign people different transactions. And we actually did one of these in the beginning of the year, or the beginning of the summer when I joined. Is he had a listing, and LaQuesta on his team was the buyer's agent who brought a buyer, and Chris could not be the representing listing agent and representing the buyer side with his team, so he asked me to help out on the seller side. And I got a referral fee, and he got the bulk of the commission because it was his listing. So there are ways around it. And that's also part of our KW culture, is we want to be sharing with each other to find win-wins for our clients. If you've seen the KW Y4C22Es, what that is referring to, the W of that, which is the very first one, is win-win. And that is why it is intentionally on this slide, because we are looking to create a win-win for both the seller and the buyer, and ultimately the agents as well. Now, matchmaker is when I will take buyer needs from either my team or somebody in the office, and I will create inventory by doing these steps we've talked about to find a listing, and then I will match it for them. Now, what is the win-win for selling the home early and off market is a couple of things. We talked about some of these already. I'm going to reiterate them. A, you're giving a price that the seller agrees with. Now, if the seller is expecting a bidding war and you intentionally priced it strategically where it's going to draw a lot of attention and run the price up, a win-win off-market sale may still be higher than list price. So let's use that 400K Chesterfield listing that I have as an example. They really want 400,000 or more. If we take an offer early, it's going to have a 4 at the front of it. Otherwise, we're going to go on the MLS. Now, it may be 400 on the dot because they give them other things. They'll close whenever the seller wants. They'll let them rent back for free. They won't do an inspection. There's a lot of other terms we can tweak in there. And that is what the win-win offer does. Now, the win for the buyer is they are not going up against other buyers. So they're not competing in that bidding war. So for that example, they might get the house 400 to 410 range, where if we were to go to market, it might be 420 or 415. Maybe they get a home inspection, they only have to waive minor repairs versus waiving the thing altogether. So you're creating a strategy or a contract that wins for both parties. So everybody gets a little bit of piece or a win. Now, you as the agent, where it benefits you, especially if you're on the listing side, is if they are going forward with a contingent offer, meaning they need to sell before they can buy. If we can get that house under contract sooner, It makes their shopping a lot easier. I have 4 of these in the car right now that I'm dealing with, and I want to rip the little bit of hair I have left out of my head every single time I work with them, because they are trying to buy houses that they cannot compete for because they haven't sold their house yet. And so the reason why we go office exclusive is so we can at least start the marketing process in an attempt to find a buyer. You can also target homes that have been sitting a while, although that is not a perfect solution either, because I showed a house last week that was on the market for 60 days and it still got an offer as soon as we wanted to write our offer. So there is no perfect win-win there for you as the client, unless you can get the seller under contract first. So then they're writing offers non-contingent. Any questions on Matchmaker? All right, cool. So let's talk a little bit about scripts. Now, this is one that I will post on social media. So we started at the beginning, and if you're in bold, we've done one of these before. We did it a couple of weeks ago. This is something that I would post regularly. So anytime I get a new buyer need, they're going to come up. Now, you can tweak this a little bit to make it applicable for social media. So obviously, if I'm posting this as a broad message on social media, I'm not going to say who's looking for a home in your neighborhood. I'm going to say in Brandermill or in Worthington Hills or in whatever neighborhood. An important piece to include here is we have seen everything on the market, because what you don't want is people commenting and sharing listings that are on the market. We've already seen those. Even if you haven't physically seen those, remember, we're not trying to generate help looking at things in the MLS. We can do that as an agent. We're trying to find market or properties that are not on the market, whether they want to list with us or occasionally they may already have an agent, and that's okay. We can still create an off-market deal. So we say, who do you know? So we'll say here, who do you know in the area thinking of selling in the next 6 months? We can be flexible on terms, and we'd love to create a win-win matchmaker type of deal. Can we connect? I'll show you another version of sharing this exact same thing. Now, this would be more of like a handwritten note or a direct message to the seller. However, you can still see how you could tweak this to make it applicable for social media. So I know you love your house and your neighborhood. I have friends of mine who are dying to join you. Do you know any neighbors who have thought about making a move? I'd love to chat about what my folks are looking for and see if we can find a match. They are pre-approved and ready to go. They can even be flexible on closing. Let's connect. This would be a part in the golden letter, or you can do handwritten notes. You can tweak this for social media to say, I have friends of mine who are working with us to buy a new home. They're dying to be in Brandermill. Do you know any neighbors or owners in Brandermill who thought about making a move? Continue on. Now, again, this will be recorded and sent out. You can also use your cell phone to take a picture of that script if it's easier for you. Or a screenshot if you're more tech savvy than I am. Yes, Lynn.
So the first one, you said, we have seen everything on the market. So this second one, you're not going to say that because you're targeting a specific property?
Yeah, you could still add that in there.
Okay.
You're still targeting a neighborhood here. Part of why I left that off is because I was tweaking the verbiage of the last one. But you can still add that in there. Because if this is a social media post, I would definitely add it. If it's a letter or a note card, it's not quite as important, although it still is, because you want to drop that expectation of them just saying, like, there's 3 up the street. Why are you emailing me? Or why are you messaging me? There's 3 in Brandermill already for sale. But if you say, we looked at those already, they didn't work for my client, so I told them I would reach out on their behalf because they really want to be in Brandermill. Which is how a lot of these conversations go when these folks first call or text me. They'll say, hey, I got your letter. We're not thinking about selling, but did you see blah, blah, blah? And I'll go into the dialogue of saying, yes, we actually did. They didn't like the backyard, or they didn't like how it backed up to the interstate. And they asked me to reach out to your building and specifically because they like the quieter lot, or they like the way it sat, or they like the curb appeal, or something of value there. Cool. Any other questions? All right. I end every training with the same slide. Keep in mind, you should be tracking your conversations, database ads, and appointments. If you're in bold, you're doing this already. If you're not in bold, still practice that muscle. I'm going to send out the recording of this training. I appreciate you all being here. I'm also going to send out that MLS training cheat sheet. There is nothing wrong with jumping on those trainings more than once, especially the on-demand ones. And if you have a client looking to buy or sell, let us know as soon as you possibly can so we can build a plan together.
I signed a buyer client Saturday.
Woo, good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
We'll talk more off air on what they're looking for and how it can help.
Okay.
Anybody else? Awesome. Go make some lead gen calls. Remember, no group coaching tomorrow. So use that as a great opportunity to do one of those MLS trainings if you haven't already. You can also use it as an opportunity to go back and watch some of the YouTube trainings of these previous ones, especially if you were targeting certain tactics like open houses. And I will see most of you later this week at Bold, if not sooner in the office. And we'll pick back up next week with lead gen on Monday.
You said there's no team meeting tomorrow too?
No, there's nothing tomorrow. The office is closed. Go vote if
Oh,
you haven't already.
it's okay. It's election day. Got it.
Yeah,
Austin, did you say you had an MLS cheat sheet?
I'm making one.
Oh, you're making one. I got you.
Yeah, what it's going to have is links to all the trainings regarding the MLS and transaction desk and those type of things.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. I will see y'all
Thank
next
you.
week, if not sooner.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.